Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. A world where coming in second place is not an option, but where principle-centered winning is the only approach.
Good morning and welcome to Government Contracting Weekly. I'm Jim McCarthy, the owner and technical director of AOC Key Solutions and the host of this show. Now, as our regular viewers know, Government Contracting Weekly is all about helping contractors win or retain contracts. That's also the mission of Key Solutions, and I'm proud to say that to date, we have helped our clients win over $130 billion in government contracts. So while our guests are generally top contracting executives and agency procurement leaders from across the industry, in today's show, I'm joined by two of my colleagues right here at Key Solutions. Together, they bring decades of successful contracting experience and expertise to a discussion we're calling Tools of the Trade. Now, with me this morning is Richard Nathan, the President and CEO of Key Solutions, and Keith Highfill, our Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer. Now, we're going to cover a lot of ground, so let's get right to it. First question is, what's the key to developing a winning strategy?
Well, you know, what's interesting is that we've had 40, 50 executives on the show so far, and we've asked everyone some variation of that question, and they all gave the right answer, which is based on intimate knowledge of the customer's needs, wants, and biases. And typically when we're developing a win strategy for a client, we try to start with a strategy conference where we identify, we pull out from the group, including the business developers, an understanding of what the client's really looking for, what they need, in other words, what's in the RFP, what they want, which are generally things that are not in the RFP, but would make their lives easier. Maybe it's a vision for the future, 3 years out, 5 years out, and also any biases they may have one way or the other. And once we have that sorted out...
By biases, you might mean preferences or something like that.
Preferences for or against something.
Yeah.
It might be a management approach. It might be a piece of software. It could be anything, but something that will either make the evaluators smile if they see it or groan if they see it.
Right.
You know,
okay.
It's either a fatal flaw or a positive feature.
Okay, Keith, what are your thoughts on developing
obviously
winning strategies?
I would agree with all that. What I would add to is you need to start early with that, and also not to be exclude. So make sure that when you're developing that strategy, you might want to include some teaming partners that you've already pre-selected, or some outsiders perhaps. So just start early and include and maybe, plenty of other opinions.
Maybe key personnel as well that you're going to ultimately bid on.
Maybe a PM that you've already selected,
or
program manager or whatever.
All right, well, that's two pretty good answers. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Gentlemen, you mentioned in your first response the notion of a notional winner profile, if you will, as part of a win strategy. What is a notional winner profile and how does one use it?
Well, the notional winner profile is from the customer's point of view, their concept of what the ideal winner to this particular offer is. So when they lay out or they write their RFP, what's their notion of what the ideal winner, what attributes would that ideal winner of that RFP be? What would be the attributes they're seeking? So it's the customer's notion of the ideal winner, the attributes that they have.
Let's see, Richard?
And it goes beyond just what the RFP specifies or even beyond the scope of work. A lot of our clients think if they look at sections L, M, and scope of work or PWS, they just have to focus on those. But it goes beyond that. It might be the particular characteristics of the key personnel, certain experiences they might have had. It may have been maybe experience with certain software packages. It could be things like experience with the unionized workforce.
Okay, so it's like a dream team, if you will, of all the characteristics that go towards making that a winner, right? So how's it used, though? Let's talk a little bit about that. It'd be very interesting. Keith?
Well, the way to use it is once you lay out what those attributes are, is to compare your company's attributes against those attributes and to see where you might have differences or where you could make some changes prior to the bidding of that RFP to get you closer to that ideal winner that the government is looking for. So it allows you to make changes and to modify your approach to get toward that ideal, therefore increasing your probability of winning that offer.
So it's like a benchmark.
A benchmark, yeah.
That'd be it.
And that benchmark's used for lots of things. As Keith said, it helps you mitigate weaknesses. It should drive your teaming decisions. You don't just team with companies that you're comfortable with or somebody you play softball with. It's because their companies fill a gap in the notional winner profile. It will also drive your past performance selections, because knowing what the key points of the notional winner profile are tells you which projects or what are the characteristics of the projects that you want to reference.
Can it include like brand and image in a marketplace? Is that
Certainly could.
part of the profile as well?
Certainly could.
So if the government's looking for a particular type of company, that would be part of that profile. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly right. And if you don't fit that profile, you better have someone on your team that does.
That does. So it sounds like a basic building block, really.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Working in contract management is a complex job. Creating, executing, managing contracts. It's an ever-changing world, and our members share the same challenges. At the National Contract Management Association, we know this business, gathering the best minds in our field, furthering your career by providing knowledge and training. Together, we've figured it out.
Federal acquisition and program offices are working every day to defend and secure the United States. Hello, I'm Brian Null, President of Blue Water Federal Solutions. We are a growing small business possessing the experience and capabilities found in the largest federal contractors. Since 2005, we've earned a significant number of contracts and task orders across DoD, DHS, and civilian agencies, with major contracts including DHS Eagle, Eagle II, and GSA Alliance Small Business. Our success is achieved through the high-performance teams that are providing disciplined service delivery on complex technical solutions, meeting cost and schedule with exceptional customer feedback and official CPAR ratings. To learn how we can deliver exceptional results on your mission requirements, go to bluewaterfederal.com and click on Contact Us. Blue Water Federal. Solutions, integrity, results.
We've been talking about strategy and some of the tools of the trade for developing win strategies, like black hat and white hat and competitive assessments and notional winner profile. Now I want to change subjects slightly, and let's talk about a little bit of tactics. Let's talk about the proposal. So first of all, compliance. Okay, why is it necessary, and what do we do to ensure compliance with the RFP? Keith.
Well, we have a very good tool that we call a Proposal Integrated Compliance Matrix, a PICM, a PICM. And a lot of people think that just doing the outline is all they need for compliance, where compliance is much broader and much more complicated than just the outline. An outline is important, but it's also all the elements. Do you have the right pricing in the B tables? How do you include the B tables? Are there things in G and H? Are there security requirements? All these things that across the whole RFP requirement need to be laid out and specified so that you make sure you hit those items in your RFP response. That's what a compliance matrix, or that's one of the things that makes the compliance matrix more complete than just an outline. And beyond just laying all those things out, it's where are you responding in your RFP to all those requirements. So you can lay those out in a checklist fashion to make sure, all right, here's this requirement for security. It wasn't in the outline, but I had to comply with it, and here's where I answered it in my section of the proposal. So it's combining all those elements.
Not just sections L and M and C, for example.
Way beyond just section L and M and C.
Okay, Richard, I'm going to put forth a premise here, and it's one that I think is true, but I'll get your reaction, and that is, left to its own devices, a proposal will go out of compliance. True or false?
Absolutely true. Okay. Absolutely
So
true.
what do you do about it?
Well, we have some control processes, techniques that we use to keep things within compliance. But before I do that, let me add to what Keith said, and that is compliance should also include compliance to the win strategy.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so we would add win strategy elements, discriminators, themes into the pick'em to ensure that the authors don't forget to put those
So
in.
you want to comply with that as well?
Absolutely,
Okay, got
absolutely. So typically, if the proposal can afford it, we include someone called a compliance guru, and also they have the responsibility for integrating the messages. So their sole responsibility in the proposal is, as sections are created by the authors, to cross-check them against the pick'em, the compliance matrix, and provide any necessary feedback. At the same time, they're looking at the content to ensure that things are consistent within the proposal and mutually supportive, so that if you propose a certain management approach, the organization chart reflects that management approach. So that if in section 1 you're talking about a particular technical solution, in section 2, 3, 4, and 5, the words support that
Have to be
technical
consistent,
solution.
yeah.
All need to be supportive. So there's that. The other thing is that in the reviews, which we'll, I think, talk about in a few minutes, we make sure that compliance, checking compliance, is a key element, a key responsibility of at least some of the reviewers.
Okay, so we've established that compliance is important, it's necessary, but why? Why is it important? I mean, what if you just decide that I can write my story better if I don't follow section L and M and H and G and all these things that you mentioned? What's your reaction to that, Keith?
Well, the whole point of compliance is to make sure that your proposal gets qualified, by the agency, because you don't want to be thrown out for not being compliant. So sometimes some people say whether the percentage is right or not is debatable, but 70% of your response is making sure it's compliant.
Just answering the mail.
Just
in other
answering
words.
the mail,
Yeah.
making sure things are in the right order, that all the things are included that the government wants, that you have the right number of copies or the right number of responses or the right organization, all those things. You have to check those items because the government often is looking for ways to throw people out, and compliance is one of the ways they can throw an offer out. So you've got to make sure that one of the principal things you do is to make sure that
That's an
proposal
interesting
is
point.
compliant.
That the government, some people think that the government is looking forward to evaluating a proposal and finding all the good stuff. But a case can be made that their first chore is to separate the wheat from the chaff. In other words, get rid of all the proposals that are not qualified, so they can only deal with a small subset. Has that been your experience in terms of this business?
Many times, particularly on the new multiple award kinds of contracts where they could get hundreds of offers.
Yeah.
And they're just going to be overwhelmed. They can't thoroughly evaluate every one of those. So the first thing I would think they do, that they know they do in many cases, is go through for compliance. And throw out what's not compliant.
So the lesson to be learned is don't give them a reason to throw you out.
Exactly.
Be
right.
absolutely compliant, answer the mail. We've been talking about strategy development and the proposal document itself. Now I want to move to essentially the final component, which is the review of that document. Gentlemen, in our industry there's something called a red team or a review team, and many observers, including this one, has suggested on occasion that the red team process as it currently exists is flawed. Your response, what do you think?
I would agree that it's often flawed or often has problems. And this is normally because the red team doesn't have the right people on it, they're not trained, and principally what happens is they often tend to go into editing mode. And the red team just becomes basically a giant editor or a commenter about edits and voice and grammar and things like that. And
Nitpicking, in other words.
and rarely gets to the big elements of, is this a winning
Is this a
proposal? Is this responding to compliance and the needs of the customer, and as it's selling the response that the government is shooting for.
Right. So Richard, the promise of a red team is a good one.
Absolutely.
But somehow in the execution it often falls down. Now Keith mentioned a couple points. Has that been your experience as well?
It is, it is. To elaborate just a bit, often the reviewers come in unprepared. They haven't read the RFP. They don't really know the program. They're not familiar with the win team, the win strategy, and yet they come in, look at a document, and start marking it up in red pen. And their markups are often not useful. They'll write things like not true, or this is BS, or rewrite this, and it leaves a stressed author with little guidance as to how to fix it.
Okay, so in the time we have left, I was hoping that we could sort of get to what are some suggestions that you might make in order to correct these flaws that we've identified in a review team. Keith?
Well, I think a couple things you can do. One is just fundamental. Don't call it a red team. Call it a win team. Change their mindset about what they're doing. The red team connotes, all right, I'm going to comment about what's written, as opposed to what do I need to do to make this a winning document. The other thing is to conduct training of the red team
In
members.
advance.
In advance.
Yeah.
Make sure they've read the RFP. Make sure you brief what the RIN strategy is and the topics they're looking for and what the proposal is trying to say, that they're going to comment on those high-level items and principally what they need to do to fix it, what the reviewers, or what the writers rather, and the proposal team needs to do to fix the document as opposed to just a comment.
So Keith's suggestion, Richard, is that the review team, or win team as he calls it, focuses on winning.
Exactly.
Not nitpicking.
Exactly.
What's your thought on that?
Well, that's absolutely the case. Make the proposal better, just don't critique it. There are a couple of things that I do to make that easier for them. Number one is I don't put them all in one room, where one extrovert who feels like talking will disturb everybody else. So I separate them so they can focus on the job at hand. And secondly, I realize that they can only constructively react to maybe 50 pages a day each. So I divide up the proposal, and I also make sure they've got enough time to do the whole thing.
Good. Thank you, gentlemen.
We at JRC Integrated Systems are proud of our legacy of providing systems engineering expertise to the strategic deterrence community. For more than 10 years, JRC has helped Navy Strategic Systems programs manage the Ohio and Ohio replacement programs. From defining requirements to developing verification plans to building and implementing the program plans to bring a major weapon system to shore-based test environment, we at JRC have become trusted advisors to ACAT-1 programs. In addition to Navy SSP, JRC Integrated Systems has begun providing similar expertise to other related programs in the Missile Defense Agency and other weapon system programs. If you need highly skilled support to help you solve your engineering and programmatic challenges, then we at JRC Integrated Systems invite you to contact us at info@jrcisi.com.
So did we win that government contract?
We did.
And?
And now we've got to deal with the regulatory hurdles.
Well, good luck with that.
When the government's your client, you need to play by their rules.
And the rules change more than you think.
Exactly. We need someone who's done this before. Plus, it's complicated, so we're going with BDO.
BDO.
People who know government contracting know BDO.
AFCEA has been bringing government and industry together since 1946. By joining AFCEA, you will reach the decision makers and become part of the discussion. You'll increase market visibility, gain market insight, receive discounts on AFCEA member services and events, and manage and engage corporate associates. AFCEA is the association of choice. Join today at www.afcea.org.
Our regular viewers know that we have a feature on our shows called Keys to Win, and so right now we want to turn our attention to some suggestions that will help our viewing audience win more government contracts. So, Richard, if you had to give it one or two tips, what would your recommendation be?
There's so many I could give, but I think the one that pops to mind is focusing resources. It's amazing how many times I'll go into a client to help them win a proposal, often as the proposal manager, and I find that they're just under-resourced. And when you need another subject matter expert, you need another something else, whatever it might be, you're told, well, the budget is gone, we don't have any more money for that, et cetera, et cetera. And it really requires, well, smart business development really requires that companies be more selective in what they bid, and focus their resources and properly resource those that they go after.
So that goes to the matter of your whole pipeline management, so that you're
Yes.
not bidding jobs that you really have no chance of winning, or you don't know the customer or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Keith, what would be your key
I
to
think
winning?
a principal key is starting early, particularly prior to the RFP release. If there's been a draft RFP, that you've worked on that draft RFP, or if you know that the release is pending, that you're getting things together prior to the start of the RFP or prior to its release, and you're ready to go. So you don't spin your wheels when the RFP is released, trying to get your team together, or trying to get people together, or put your proposal team together. All that needs to be done prior to the proposal release.
So you can sort of hit the ground running.
Hit the ground
jump
running.
start your effort.
Right, and
right
not
away.
waste time, because these proposal responses are limited time, so you want to be able to maximize that time so that you have time to develop those win themes into coherent statements and, you know, a winning proposal, as opposed to wasting time getting your proposal team together or trying to get your whole subcontract team together, your team. All that should be done prior to the start of the RFP, optimally.
Okay, thank you.
Another tip would be to get, you know, that whole teaming is the team being two things, not only your proposal team, but the team on your offer team. So all your subcontractors or teaming partners. You need to have that team together and in place with the teaming agreements signed prior to the proposal start. So there's that team, and then your proposal team, the resources within your company that you're going to compose the proposal with.
Might there be a third team, which is your key personnel team? Get them assembled early on?
Absolutely. Maybe a PM or the key people that are going to be performing on the proposal. Need to have those people in place and participating
Assemble
in your
your
response.
your companies, assemble your proposal team, and assemble your key personnel.
Absolutely.
And do it early, is your suggestion.
Early and ideally before the proposal is released.
Okay, Richard, let me toss it back to you. What would be another key to win, another suggestion that we might share with our audience?
Well, we're in the political season here in Washington right now, and if you look at the Washington Post, they often look at what politicians are saying to the public and grant them Pinocchios. And you earn a Pinocchio by exaggerating or sometimes telling fibs. Business developers never tell fibs, but they sometimes exaggerate because by their very nature, they're optimists. If you weren't an optimist, you'd get out of the business. So everybody thinks they've got a very high probability of win, or P-win as we say. So one technique we've used, rather than assigning Pinocchios, is suggest to our clients that they assign a devil's advocate.
A devil's advocate.
A devil's advocate.
Okay.
Now, all companies go through some kind of a step review process, so that at certain parts of the business development cycle, the capture manager, business developer, goes into management and presents their case for a particular bid. Problem is, the line management isn't really immersed in those particular opportunities. They're too busy running a business unit, and they don't know the ins and outs of every opportunity. So they can be easily influenced, or not, I'll take out the word easily. They can be influenced by a persuasive business developer or capture manager. And while they do pull the plug on certain opportunities, if you assign someone as a devil's advocate, that person whose role is specifically to question every assumption and not let anything pass through without a proof, they can help line management assign Pinocchios. They can help line management find the vulnerabilities in a bid strategy.
So this is a role. It's a
role.
formalized role that somebody is assigned to play during the proposal and capture phase, and maybe sort of be a contrarian and always to challenge the conventional wisdom, the conventional thinking, and make people prove their points.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Thank
And it has two functions. One is it can save you money because it can find weaknesses and opportunities that you shouldn't bid. But if you go for it, it can help the proposal team by ensuring that they don't make unsubstantiated assertions.
In this hyper-competitive marketplace, as a federal government contractor, now more than ever, you need to identify, track, forecast, and analyze opportunities that will help you grow your company by better positioning yourself to win contracts. I'm Jamie Brett, the founder of Easy GovOps, and that's our mission. Utilizing the most intuitive market intelligence platform, Easy GovOps, enables contractors of all sizes to manage their pipeline, collaborate, and team like never before. Experience for yourself the power available to you and your team with a 5-day free trial period with no commitment necessary to begin. Simply visit easygovops.com to start your free trial today. Join the hundreds of other federal government contractors who are enjoying the ultimate competitive advantage of our unequaled market intelligence. Just spend one free week at easygovops.com and see for yourself.
At Key Solutions, we've been working for 30 years to help government contractors win and retain $130 billion in government contracts. We understand that coming in second place is not an option, and that principle-centered winning is the only way forward. That's how we have worked with 87 of the top 100 government contractors and literally hundreds of small businesses. It takes a fresh set of eyes to honestly see the weaknesses and sometimes even the outright holes in a proposal. One of my proudest recollections was a time we were hired by a client that had lost their last 5 opportunities in a row. But with our help in analyzing and addressing their shortcomings, I'm happy to say that they then won their next 7 bids. I'm Jim McCarthy, the owner of Key Solutions, and we want to help you win or retain your next contract. Contact us at AOC Key Solutions and click on Win. As promised, we covered a lot of ground, so I'd like to summarize today's keys to winning. First, you must focus on your resources. That starts with having enough of the right people in place and committed. Secondly, be selective in your bidding. Don't chase all procurements that don't fit your strengths to a T. And finally, start the process early. And in many cases, if you wait for the RFP, you may already be too late. Now, my thanks go out to Dr. Richard Nathan and to Keith Highfill, and especially to you, our viewers, for making Government Contracting Weekly a regular part of your learning regimen. Now, on behalf of all of my colleagues at Key Solutions, I'm Jim McCarthy.
You've been watching Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored each week by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. For additional information, comments, questions, or suggestions, please write us at governmentcontractingweekly.com.